Welcome back to my channel. It's great to have everyone back again. In this video we'll be doing a Doctor Who logo in Inkscape, just for fun and also because it's good practice in Inkscape, and once we've created the basic logo in vector format we can apply all kinds of effects to it in Inkscape and just have a lot of fun with it. So the logo we will be doing is this logo here, which first made its appearance in the early 1970s during the John Pertwee era of Doctor Who. It's one of the most characteristic of all the Doctor Who logos. I would actually say it's the first Doctor Who logo to be truly characteristic. Look at that lovely arch on the bridge of the H, that little cutout section of the D, which creates that little three-dimensional effect. Absolutely beautiful logo. And something which I think is a testament to just what a good design this is the fact that even though this logo was retired in the mid-1970s and replaced by a series of other logos throughout the years, this logo has actually been reincarnated a number of times throughout the history of Doctor Who. It was used in the 1990s Doctor Who movie starring Paul McGann, which is the only time which Doctor Who appeared on television in the 1990s. And it was used on a number of DVD covers, and it's also been used in some of the recent Target novelizations of Doctor Who, or rather some of the recent reprints of the classic Target novelizations, I think. There you can see some of those covers there. So just the fact that this logo keeps reappearing is evidence that people generally consider it to be a very good design. Now, if you pay attention, you'll notice that there are some differences between the original 1970s logo and its more modern variants. The most notable, perhaps, being that the C is shaped differently, and its top bar actually almost connects with the top bar of the T, matching the slant in the T. I've decided to base this graphic we're going to make on the original 1970s logo, largely because this early TV version tends to be the only place we see it in its original form, and so it adds a bit more uniqueness to what we're doing. And also, there's something quite attractive about the idea of taking something old and seeing what we can do with it with our more modern tools. Now, I don't know if you've seen my previous video in which I critique each of the Doctor Who logos one by one, starting with the 1960s logos and going on to the present day logo. In that video, I look at each logo and I talk about what I think is good about each of them from a design perspective. And I talk about this logo and I go into a bit more depth about what I think makes it a good logo. But you don't have to have watched that video in order to follow along with this tutorial. So I think without any further more ado, we'll just get right into Inkscape and start reproducing this wonderful logo in vector format. So we start off in Inkscape, and we go to File, we go to Document Properties, and we go to the Page Settings, and in Display Units we'll change them to pixels, and in the Custom Size area we'll also change the units to pixels. Then we will change the width of the page to 1280, and we will change the height to 720. And we will change the background color to black. And we will turn off Show Border Shadows. Then we will go to Guides, we will change the guide color to white. And we will change the alpha value to 255 so that we max out the opacity of the guides. And we will leave the highlight color of the guides as red. Then we will go to Snap, we will go to Snap to Guides, we will make sure Snap only when closer than is selected, and we will make that value about 10. And those are all the settings we need to set in Document Properties. So the next thing we want to do now is fetch a bitmap image on which to trace the logo. So to do that, we're going to go over to YouTube, we're going to search for all Doctor Who titles, and we're going to select this video here, all Doctor Who title sequences, uploaded by the official Doctor Who logo, the official Doctor Who channel. So we'll select that video. And what this video is it's just a sequence of all the Doctor Who introductory sequences. And we want to skip ahead to the John Pertwee introduction, which is about here. And then we'll just wait till the logo appears, and then we will pause it when the logo appears. Just pause it about there. And if we wait too far, then what we can do, because we're using YouTube, we can use the comma key on the keypad, on the keyboard, to go backwards frame by frame. And we can use the period key or full stop key to go forward a frame. And that's about where we want it, where the edges of the logo are fairly clearly defined. So I'm going to maximize that video. And because I'm using a Windows PC, I'm just going to press print screen to take a screenshot of that. And I'm going to go back to Inkscape, and I'm going to press Ctrl V to paste that image into Inkscape. Then I want to cut out the words Doctor Who. So I'm going to do that by creating a clipping mask. I'm going to select rectangle, draw a rectangle over Doctor Who, there. And I'm going to hold down Shift, use the arrow key to select the bitmap, so I've got both the rectangle and the bitmap selected, and I'm going to go Object, Clip, Set, and we have cut out that logo by creating a clip. And I'm just going to resize that a bit. I'm just going to move it up there, hold down Control and drag the bottom right handle to resize it to about there. And another thing we want to do here in the main screen of Inkscape is I want to make sure that this option here, Snap to Bounding Boxes, is selected, and I want to make sure all of the 4 boxes below that are selected as well, because what we'll be doing is we will be tracing this logo using shapes, and I want those shapes to be able to snap to their centers and snap to each other. So then once we've got that done, I'm going to go to the layers, and I'm going to change that layer name to bitmap. It's a bit hard to type when I've got my microphone in the way, but there we go. Then I'm going to put another layer on top of that, and I'm going to change that layer name to logo. And the bitmap layer I'm going to lock, because we're going to do all of our work on the logo layer. And the next thing we want to do is we want to create some guides. So to create the first guide, I'm going to go to the top ruler and I'm going to drag it down until we have our guide just along the bottom of the word Who. And I'm just going to drag it to it's at the bottom of the W there. You can't get it perfectly exact because of the low resolution of television at the time when this recording was made. I'll go over here and make sure it's actually a little bit higher, just along both the bottom of both the H and the W, like that. I think that should do. And then we'll draw down another guide here, and we'll put it along the top of Who, and we'll put it so that it just lies along the top arms of the W, and the top arms of the H as well. Don't worry about that pointy bit of the W extending above the guide. That's quite all right. Then we'll draw down another guide, and we'll put it along the bottom of the word Doctor. Put it along the bottom of the D there. And the final horizontal guide we will put along the top of the D, along the top of the word Doctor, like that. And then we will draw a vertical guide by dragging the leftmost ruler, and we will have that guide just so it is on the top left corner of the W there. And our final guide we will draw so that it just matches the right hand edge of the O in Who. There we go. There are all of our guides drawn. So now we'll start drawing the shapes which make up the logo, so that we have this logo in vector format. So first of all, I'm just going to start by drawing a rectangle. Just draw a random rectangle to start with, and that is actually the color and opacity which we want. But if it wasn't, all we'd have to do, like for example, if it was another color or another opacity, all you have to do is just right click on the shape, then we go fill and stroke, and we make it white by dragging these RGB values all the way, and we make sure that the opacity of the alpha value is about 100, because we want to actually see underneath what's below these shapes which we're drawing. So then once we've got the rectangle the right color and opacity, we just drag it so that it just snaps to where these two guidelines intersect here at the top left corner of the W. Then we will change the width of it by dragging this handle here so that it's just the same width as the top of this arm of the W. And then we will drag the bottom edge of the rectangle down until it snaps to that lower grid line, that lower guideline. And then I want to actually make a copy of that rectangle because we'll be reusing it in several other places. So I'm just going to press Ctrl D to make a copy, and I'm going to drag the copy out of the way for the moment. Then going back to the original rectangle, I want to make it a parallelogram. So I'm going to click on it again to get those shear handles at the bottom. And I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to drag that shear handle until the bottom of the parallelogram is just overlaying that bottom arm of the W. Then, because I want to bring those vertices in a bit so that they match the W more closely, I'm going to go Path, Object to Path, then I'm going to choose the Node Selection tool, and I'm just going to drag those nodes in a bit so that they match the W better. That's good. Then I'm going to draw another shape using our Bezier pen tool here. And I'm just going to draw it using just single clicks so that we just draw it using straight lines. I'm going to make our first click right at the bottom right of the parallelogram we just drew, one click. Then our next position is going to be just right here where those two arms of the W intersect, just there. Then I'm going to pan up a bit, and I'm actually going to hold Control so that that line goes straight up and down, and click there. Then we will click just inside the shape which we originally drew, and we make sure that this line matches up with that edge of the W there. And our final click will be at our original starting point there. Then with both those shapes selected, we press Ctrl plus to union them into one shape, and then we press Ctrl D to copy that shape. Then I'm going to use the horizontal flip tool up here, and I'm going to drag that shape until it snaps to the right-hand edge of the first shape we drew. Then I'm going to select both shapes and press Ctrl plus, and our W is completed. So now we'll move on to the H. So I'm going to make two copies of that spare rectangle we have there, Ctrl D and Ctrl D again, and I'm going to move those rectangles until they just overlay the two bars of the H. The first rectangle will have it so that it just snaps to that W there, and the second one so that it just overlays the second bar of the H there, and it just snaps to the top guide. Then I'm going to use the Bezier pen tool again, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle, a quadrilateral, starting from just inside that bar, and just going to the inside of that bar. And I'm just going to draw it so that we're just drawing the bridge of the H in straight lines. And then to get that lovely curve, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Node Selection tool, and I'm just going to drag those edges to make the curve, like that. And then I'm going to make sure all three objects there are selected and press Ctrl plus, and our H is done. Look at that beautiful curve on the H there. So now we'll draw the O. So we'll use our circle tool, we will hold down Control, and we will draw a circle from the top right corner of the H right down to the lower guideline, and it will just snap to the guideline there. And immediately you'll notice something very strange. Our circle which we just drew is fallen way short of the O, the original O in the logo. Now, why has that happened? Two reasons. One is because the original O in the logo here is not very circular. It's actually elliptical with the horizontal axis longer than the vertical axis. It's flattened. But another reason is if you zoom in here and you look at the bottom part of the O, you'll see that it actually extends below our guideline, which we drew to be the same level as the bottom of the H and the W. And this is actually a very common feature in typographic design. With letters such as O's and U's and maybe one or two other letters which have rounded bottoms, it's very common in the design of a typeface to have the bottoms of the letters extend below the baseline, as it's called, of the typeface, whereas letters such as H and A and M and N, which have flat bottoms, actually sit flush on the baseline. And that's another reason why our O here extends further than we would expect it to. So what we're going to do then is I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to put that O, that circle, back where it was to begin with. And I'm just going to extend this circle a bit so it also extends just below the baseline. So to resize the top and bottom of the O equidistantly, I'm going to press Ctrl and Shift, and I'm just going to drag that lower right handle until we're just extending a bit. I might zoom in a bit. And I think that's about what we want, with our O just extending a bit below the baseline. And then holding down Control, I'm just going to drag the O till it snaps to the left, to the right hand edge of the H there. And you see we're still falling a bit short, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was before. Now we've got this extension above and below the baseline. So now we need to cut out the middle of the O. So to do that, we'll duplicate that circle by pressing Ctrl D, and then we'll hold Ctrl and Shift, and we will drag that circle until it's just about the same size as the inner circumference of the O, and then we will leave that selected and hold down Shift and select the original circle, then press Ctrl- to cut that inner circle out of the O. And there we have the word Who finished in Doctor Who. So now that O is now going to form the basis for not only the two other O's in Doctor, but also for the D and the C as well. So we need 4 more copies of that O, and we're going to resize them to that smaller typeface size. So I'm going to make 1 copy of the O, Ctrl D, and then I'm going to move it to the top of this top guideline here, and I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to resize it till it snaps to the bottom guideline. Even though this O here also extends below this guideline here, we're not going to worry about it in this instance. We're just going to have all of our letters in the word Doctor fitting perfectly between these 2 guidelines here. So then I'm going to make 3 more copies of this O. With that selected, I'm going to press Ctrl D, D, D to make 3 more copies. And so the 2 O's are already done. We'll just move them into place. And we'll just snap. Don't worry about the exact placing just now. We'll fix all that up later. And now we will work on the C. So we will move one of these O's until it overlays the C in Doctor. Just one handy tip. Once you have the O's placed between the guidelines like that, so that they've snapped on the guidelines, you can just slide them along the guidelines by holding down Control and dragging like that. So that's where we want it. And then I'm just going to draw another rectangle on top of that O, just so it cuts into the inner circumference of the O. And then I'm going to subtract that shape from the O to make our C. Then I'm going to take the one remaining O, I'm going to move it over to where the D is, I'm just going to move these 2 characters out of the way for the moment, and That's about right. And then I'm going to draw another rectangle so that it just bisects that O, like that. And then we will subtract that rectangle from that O to get, I guess, a semi-O, like that. Then I will draw another rectangle, starting from this vertex here, right up to the top left corner of the D, and so that it snaps to that guide there. And we will union those two shapes, Control+. Now, to get that horizontal bar of the D, what we then need to do is take this spare rectangle we have here, and we're going to resize it to the size between the two guidelines here. Hold down Control and resize, like that. And I'm going to make two more copies of that shape as well, because we'll be reusing this rectangle again with the other letters. Then we'll drag that first rectangle so that it snaps to the left-hand side of a D like that, and we'll union those two shapes. And then we will drag the D until it snaps to the leftmost guideline so that it is flush with the W below it. Then I'm going to choose the Bezier pen tool, and I'm going to draw a triangle starting with this vertex here. So click, 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 click. And I'm going to subtract that triangle from the D so that we have that two-dimensional shadow effect there. And there we have it. There our D is complete. I'm just going to move these other characters so that they're flush with the D. Move the C along as well. And you'll notice now that it looks like all the letters are out of sync with our original letters in the logo. But that's all right. Trust me, it will all work out in the end. What we'll do now is we'll work on the T. I'll just move that O out of the way a bit. And the vertical bar of the T will be formed from another of these rectangles, which we will just place like that. And the top bar will be the same height as the top bar of the D. So we'll just draw another rectangle the same height, starting at that vertex here and snapping at the top guide there. That's a rectangle of the right size, so we'll now just move that to where it should be with the T. There. Extend it. That's about right. And then to get that slant to the leading edge of the T, I'm going to go Path, Object to Path, then I'm going to go to the Node Selection tool, and I'm going to drag that vertex just to make that leading slant. And then I'm just going to union those two shapes with Control+. And there's our T done. I'm going to move that T along so it snaps against the C like that. And I'm going to move the O along as well. So now the only letter we've left to do now is the R, which is actually, I think, the most difficult letter, but don't worry, we'll be quite okay. So to do the R, we'll take that one remaining rectangle, we'll drag it so that it just overlays that left-hand bar of the R, press Ctrl D to duplicate it, we'll drag that new rectangle so it just is flush with the right-hand side of the R, like that. Let's see, maybe a bit more. That's about right. Then we will drag down the top part of the rectangle so that it's just level with that intersection there, where the two legs of the R meet each other. Then we will click once more on the rectangle to get the shear tools. We'll hold down Shift and we will just drag the top to make a parallelogram. And it won't snap perfectly, but that's all right. We'll just have it so that it just slightly goes into the first shape we drew there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this rightmost guide until it snaps onto the bottom right corner of the parallelogram. And then I'm going to use the ellipse tool. I'm going to go to the top right corner of that rectangle and I'm going to draw an ellipse until the ellipse just snaps to the rightmost guide. And we're going to bring the bottom edge of that ellipse down until it only just overlays that corner, that top right corner of that parallelogram there. Like that. We just have to make it so it just goes over that top right corner. Then I'm going to draw another circle, the same radius as the inner circle of the R there. That there should do it. And I'm just going to have it so that it just bisects. So it's just bisected by the left rectangle. And I'm just going to drag that down until it's about in the right place. Then I'm going to draw another rectangle. We're going to start it initially at the top right corner of the big rectangle there and draw it until we get to the top right corner of the parallelogram. And then I'm just going to move this rectangle until it bisects the ellipse. And we will just make sure that the rectangle still snaps to the top guide and also it snaps to the top of the parallelogram. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the circle. I'm going to press home to make sure it's right in front of anything else. Then I'm going to select all the shapes underneath the circle. I'm going to select the big rectangle, smaller rectangle, the ellipse and the parallelogram, and I'm going to press Ctrl+ to union all of those. Then I'm going to draw yet another rectangle on top of that smaller circle, and I'm going to drag the rectangle until it bisects that circle. Hold on a second, this might be a bit tricky. What I'll do here is I will just drag that circle, hold down Control and drag that circle up so it's outside that shape which is interfering with things, and then I'm going to drag this rectangle and have it bisect that circle. There we go. And I'm going to subtract the rectangle from the circle. Then I'm going to hold Control and drag down that circle, that semicircle now, until it's in position again. Then I'm going to hold down Shift, select the outer shape, Ctrl- to cut out that inner circle. Then I'm just going to use the node selection tool and I'm just going to drag that top node there, hold down Control and drag that top node just to make that curve a bit better, not quite so extreme. And there we have it. There we have the R. We actually have now all the letters in our logo done. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to make sure they're all snapping, they're all just touching each other. Hold down Control and drag them along the guidelines. And you notice that the O is now considerably outside where the R was. But that's actually alright. I found that if the R is actually flush with the O, it looks like it's extending out too far. This actually works very well. But to really just see how it looks, we go back to our layers, we hide the bitmap layer, then we press Ctrl-A, go to Fill and Stroke, and we change the opacity back to 255, the alpha value back to 255, just to see what our logo looks like. And there we have it. There we have the Doctor Who logo. So I think I'd like to see now what it looks like as black on a white background. So with everything still selected, we make it black, and then we go back to Document Properties, go to Page, change the background color back to white. Now we have a good look at our logo. Let's turn off the guides so we can see it better. View, turn off guides. I have been thinking just now that maybe I should make the O smaller a bit again, because it did look like it was extending considerably past the right-hand edge of the R. But looking at it like this, it really looks like everything is quite well balanced, so I don't think we really need to do that. But this is a point now in the process where you can fine-tune things if you're not completely happy with them. So like, for example, I'm not completely happy with the way that T doesn't quite touch the O like that. So I can select both the O and the R and just move them along a bit. Hold down Control, like that. Well, on second thoughts, maybe it was better with the O not quite touching the T. That actually looks a bit crowded now to me. So I think that's good the way it is. So there we have it. There we have the Doctor Who logo. And once we've got it in the basic vector form like that, we can apply all kinds of wonderful effects to them. Here we can see some examples of what we can do. And we can do all kinds of things. We can apply a gradient to the logo to create a chrome-like effect. We can use it as a clipping mask to clip out stars. We can apply multiple different effects and overlay some on top of the others, all kinds of things. But what we'll do just now, I think, is we'll just do a very basic effect on the logo. What we'll do is we'll press Ctrl A to select everything. Then we'll change the color to a blue color. Just a pale blue color, about like that. I think I might group everything as well. And then I'm going to go Filter, I'm going to go Ridges, and I'm going to go Refractive Gel A. And that creates, and that's a quick and dirty way of creating a very effective look to our logo. I say quick and dirty because if you zoom in a bit, we can see that the original shape of the logo is still visible underneath the 3D effect which we've just applied. So it's not really such a refined effect which we've applied, but it still looks pretty good if you don't look too closely. I will just quickly show you how to do a version of the logo that makes it into a clipping mask of a Starscape. So the way we'll do that is we'll select the logo, we'll remove that filter, then I'm going to open up a bitmap Starscape image which I created in Photoshop, and I'll provide the link to this image for you. Once that Starscape bitmap is open, we'll just select the graphic, copy it, and close that extra Inkscape window. Then we'll press Ctrl V to paste it into our document. And I'll press End to send it right to the back. Then I want to select the logo and press Ctrl D to make a copy of that logo. You don't see any change because the copy is just sitting on top of the logo, the original logo. Then I'll press End to send that copy right to the back. So what we have now is right at the back we have a copy of the logo, and on the front we have another copy of the logo, and we have the Starscape bitmap sandwiched between them. Then I'm going to click out of that and I'm going to select the logo that's sitting on the top of the bitmap. And in Fill and Stroke, I'm going to turn the opacity right down so that I can see the stars underneath the logo. Then I'm going to select the bitmap, the Starscape bitmap, and I'm just going to drag it until the stars and these nebula are positioned in a positioning which I like. I want it just so that the stars and the nebula are kind of roughly evenly distributed throughout the logo. Let's see. Okay, that might be good. We'll see how that is. Then I'll select both the logo and the Starscape. I'll go Object, Clip, and Set. And there you see we've made the logo into a clipping mask of the Starscape. And you may be happy with it the way it is, but we can also apply some extra effects to create a nice edge to the logo. And the way we'll do that is we'll select it, we'll press N to send it right to the back so that we've got that copy of the logo sitting on top of it. Then we'll select that copy, then we'll set that copy to black, Then we'll go to Fill and Stroke, we'll select Stroke Style, we'll make sure we have pixels selected as our units of measurement, and we will set the width of the stroke to 30. Then we will select the graphic and press End to send it to the back. Then we'll press Ctrl D again to make another copy, which is now sitting on top of both of those graphics. We'll go to Fill, we'll set Zero Fill by clicking the cross there. Then we'll go to Stroke Paint and set the stroke color to white. And in Stroke Style, we will set the width to 8. And there we've created a nice edge to the graphic. These numbers which I put in the Stroke Style box, their effectiveness is all relative to the size of the graphic. So if your graphic doesn't look quite right, you may just need to play around a little bit with those stroke numbers. So there you have an effect on the logo which is a little bit more effective, I think, than the very rough filter which we applied earlier. It's still not perfect. Like if you zoom in a bit, you'll see this corner on the D, which needs a little bit of work. And also, I'm not particularly happy with the way the C looks either. I think the way the two arms of the C meet there looks a bit strange. I don't really like that very much. But those are all things which can be fixed up with just a little bit of fine-tuning. But I'm not going to do that now. Again, once you have the vector graphic, there's a lot of things you can do with the logo. All kinds of effects you can apply, and I might do another video on how to do some of those. We'll see how we go. Anyway, that's how you do a Doctor Who logo in Inkscape, and I think we're finished for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe, like the video, or leave a comment. Remember to click the bell to be notified of future videos, and I will see you in the future. Be happy, be blessed, and bye for now.